Here's the thing about growing your career. If you want to grow, you have to put yourself into new challenges. And when you put yourself into new challenges, you're going to feel a little bit uncomfortable. And when you start to feel uncomfortable, that's when self doubt creeps in and you hear that imposter syndrome. The people who have grown their careers, it's not that they never feel uncomfortable anymore or that they never take on new challenges. They've actually just learnt to manage that imposter syndrome or that imposter voice that shows up when they're moving into these moments of discomfort. And that's why today I want you to learn to love your imposter. And I'm going to give you 3 steps to feel freedom when that imposter syndrome shows up. Now, to begin, I want to tell you a recent story of my own. So, this is me about a week before I returned from maternity leave. And here's my son. Now, obviously, I've blocked out his face because I don't like showing his face on social media. I think it's up to him if he ever wants to show his face. But at this point in time, I had been on maternity leave for about 10 months. And returning to work from maternity leave it's pretty tricky. It's pretty hard. Like, you have a lot of self-doubt and a lot of voices that show up in your head trying to tell you that perhaps you're not cut out for this. So it's hard enough already, but rather than just leave it at that, I had actually recently moved countries and had also recently moved roles. So before I went on maternity leave, I was actually only in my role for less than 3 months. It was a new brand, it was a new country, it was part of the same company. So I did know some people, but it was still a completely new business. And I had also moved from head of to director. So I'd moved from senior leadership to even more senior leadership. And when I returned from maternity leave, because of all of these challenges and because I felt so out of place, there was a lot of doubt that kept creeping into my head and telling me things like, you don't belong here, you've lost your edge, you'll be found out. And I remember when I returned from mat leave, I wasn't the person that I used to be. I wasn't the person when I left. My brain was operating in a different way. I couldn't remember things like I used to. I couldn't have debates like I used to. I just wasn't thinking as quickly as I used to. And I also remember even just walking into the office and sort of feeling, oh, I feel like the new person here again. And I feel like I'm sort of the outsider coming back in. And that also just made me feel so out of place and a little out of my depth. So I know what it's like to deal with imposter syndrome, and I want to share with you what I did during this time to basically work through it. Now, on top of that, I have felt that self-doubt and I've gone through those challenges multiple times in my career. So a few examples was when I moved from market research into a commercial role. I had spent over 10 years in market research and similar roles, working in strategy and working in consulting. And then I took a leap and I moved into a commercial area of the business and was owning quite a large portion of the P&L. But at the time, I didn't even know how P&L operated. So that was a big leap for me. And I felt a lot of self-doubt and a lot of imposter syndrome because I was moving myself into such an uncomfortable place. It happened again when I moved from commercial to product. I think whenever anyone moves disciplines in an organization, they feel that self-doubt. They feel that imposter syndrome. I've felt it when I've been the only female in a room of 25, and that has happened quite a few times. But when that happens to you, you sort of look around the room and you go, oh, I'm the odd one out here. Do I belong? And then more recently, it's come up for me when I've started to share on social media and share posts on LinkedIn or share videos on YouTube. This is a new world. And again, it's another new skill that I have to build. And so when those moments come up, the voice in your head starts to say, are you cut out for this? So I say all this to let you know I have plenty of experience in this area. And that's why I want to give you the tools that I use to master that imposter voice. Now, the first one is to reframe it. A lot of people have this negative connotation when it comes to imposter syndrome. It's sort of this oh, what should I do when I'm feeling it? Or there's just this negative perception towards it, right? And I think actually it's because we label it syndrome. And the word syndrome, it makes it sound like an illness. But actually, imposter syndrome doesn't have to be a bad thing, because what it is actually a trigger or a signal for when you're placing yourself into moments of discomfort. And moments of discomfort are usually moments where you are putting yourself into a new challenge. You're doing something new. You're doing something for the first time. That is a good thing. That means you are growing. That means you are pushing yourself. It means that you are about to evolve and about to become someone new. So actually, with that in mind, imposter syndrome doesn't need to be a negative thing. And so the first thing that I always recommend to women is actually like we need to reframe how we are referencing it, and we need to reframe the thoughts that we're having in our mind. So for instance, rather than saying things like, I'm feeling like an imposter because I'm not good enough, we should reframe that and say, I'm feeling like an imposter because I'm growing and I'm doing something new. It's such a more positive way to look at it. And if you think of it in this way and you think of it as more, this is just a signal that I'm growing, this is just a signal that I'm doing something new, you're going to feel a bit more pride rather than self-doubt. Ultimately, the way that I now think about it is the day I stop feeling like an imposter is the day I've stopped challenging myself. And actually, that's kind of sad for me. For someone who is ambitious and for someone who craves growth and for someone who loves to keep learning, I actually know that when I stop feeling that imposter syndrome, it's probably going to be a sad day for me. And so perhaps that reframe is really helpful for you. When you start to feel it or when it shows up for you, it could actually be a good thing because it's a signal that you're about to grow. Now, once you've reframed it in your mind, the second tip that I always recommend is actually to voice it. Now, you need to feel safe enough to do this and you need to find the right people to do this. But again, I'm going to share with you a story. And when I was feeling quite a bit of self-doubt when I returned to work from maternity leave, I remember thinking to myself, okay, I'm going to share this with a few people that I respect and a few people that I can seek advice from. And I shared it with the marketing director at the time. And I remember saying to her, I'm feeling a bit of self-doubt. I can feel myself tripping over my words. I can feel myself holding myself back and making myself smaller in rooms. And I'm just not myself. And I remember what she said to me. It actually really struck a chord. So one, she was sort of quite surprised. She was like, oh, we would have no idea. Like, you have been showing up so strongly in meetings and you have been so much yourself. We had no idea. But the thing that she said that actually really struck a chord was, well, the good thing is you'll move through it quickly now because you've shared it. And that was so true. When you share it and when you voice it, you kind of take its power away a little bit. And there's a few reasons why that happens. Firstly, when people share that they're feeling self-doubt or that they're feeling imposter syndrome, it actually kind of normalizes it. So the more that people share about it, the more that it becomes just a normal thing to feel. And when you share it with someone, they'll say, oh yeah, I totally get it. I went through that exact same thing. Or they'll say, oh yeah, I totally get it. Here's a story about someone else who returned from maternity leave and she was feeling the exact same thing. And when you start to hear stories about how other people felt it, you kind of go, oh, this isn't just me. I'm not broken. This is just part of the journey. This is just a phase that I'm going through. This is just a signal that I'm growing or I'm doing something that is challenging for the first time. And so when you share it and you voice it, you actually tend to normalize it. The other thing that you do when you share it is you actually separate the fact from feeling. Have you ever sort of allowed a thought to just sit in your mind and you spiral on it and you spiral on it and you spiral on it and you give it so much power and you let that thought take over everything? That's what happens when you don't voice these things, when you don't voice things like, I'm feeling a little bit of self-doubt at the moment. And you give this feeling so much power, this feeling that I'm not good enough or I'm not doing my best or people are going to find me out. You give this feeling so much power, but actually that may not even be a fact anyway. And so by voicing things, you start to actually rationalize it and you allow yourself to separate what is true versus what are the feelings that you're having. So I'll give you a for instance. You might be feeling like you're not performing your best at your role or you're not doing what might be to other people's expectations. And therefore, you build up this feeling in your head that I'm not good enough, I'm not showing my best, I'm not doing great work here, blah, 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 blah. And you start to really spiral in these negative thoughts. And then they can start to impact actually how you show up. And if you voice it, what you might get is actually more facts back from people. So someone will say to you, oh, I had no idea you're nailing it at the moment. Like you're exactly where I expect you to be. So it's really important to voice it so you can separate it and get that rational truth rather than just the emotional feeling. And the final thing that it does by voicing it is it actually activates support, and you'll build a support network around you who will kind of have your back and they'll sort of corral around you. And that is really, really important when you are starting to feel a little bit of self-doubt. So all these things, what it means is that you take away its power. So by voicing it, you take away the power that it has over you. And I actually know some people as well who give it a name and they kind of distance themselves from it. And they're like, oh, Bob's showing up again. Bob's letting me know that I'm doing something new again. Bob's letting me know that I'm challenging myself again. And by giving it a name, you disidentify yourself with it and you start to make it something that just like something or someone who just shows up time and time again, but you separate yourself from it. So try that. Give it a name. Bob's here again. And just remember that silence lets it grow, but language shrinks it. Now, with this, what I would recommend, of course, you want to be sharing it with people that you feel safe with. So that could be your manager, that could be some friends around you within work, it could be friends within your personal life. Just make sure that you're sharing it with someone that you trust and you respect. And be careful with the language that you choose when you are sharing it. Rather than saying something like, I'm terrible at this, use language like, I'm struggling with some self-doubt at the moment. Hey, I just want to let you know, I'm struggling with a little bit of self-doubt at the moment. I don't know that I'm showing my best. And now step number 3, and perhaps the most powerful, you need to learn to rewrite the stories that you are telling yourself. And actually, firstly, you need to build awareness that the stories in your head are actually just stories. So the reality is, most of what holds us back isn't our actual capabilities or our potential. It's the beliefs that we hold about ourselves. It is our beliefs that actually cloud our judgment. It is our beliefs that actually hold us back from taking different action. And it's our beliefs that hold us back from our potential. So I want to share with you some beliefs that I've had in the past and other women have had around me. And I want to share with you how these beliefs can sort of govern your actions and govern how you show up. So here are some good ones. I have to know all the answers to be good at my job. That one has definitely held me back in the past, and it's made me feel like if I don't know the answer to every single question, then I'm not good at my job at all, and actually I should be fired and I should just give up. And therefore what that did was it would put me when people would ask me questions. I remember when I was really junior or first entered into my career, I'd feel like I had to know the answer and I'd get defensive if I didn't. And sometimes I would even make things up. But actually, the reality is you'll never know everything. And it takes a lot of maturity to say, hey, I don't know, let me get back to you. Another belief, I need to be liked to succeed. This can hold so many people back. If you feel that you have to be liked by everyone, there are moments where you have to make tough decisions and not everyone will agree with them. So if you're always wanting to be liked by everyone, you're not going to push yourself and to be in those positions where you're having to make those difficult decisions. Another, leaders have to be loud. If you have that belief and you are someone who is maybe introverted or someone who doesn't like to put themselves in the center of attention, it's going to be difficult for you to push yourself into a leadership position because you're always going to feel like, oh no, I have to be loud. And that's actually kind of not who I am. So again, you can see how a belief like that might hold you back. Leadership requires sacrifice of family. Again, if you believe this and you want to have a family or you have strong family values, you're going to feel like those two worlds can't combine. You're going to feel like I can't be a senior leader and have a happy family at the same time. Now, I know for a fact that that is not true because I've done it myself. But if you have that belief, you're going to hold yourself back from ever putting yourself into those opportunities where you can be in leadership. If I self-promote, it'll be seen as braggy. This is one that a lot of women believe and a lot of women use to sort of hold themselves back from building any visibility for themselves. It is not true. There are ways that you can do self-promotion that is actually just more about building visibility, and that's what's important. And another, I haven't done this before, so it's going to be hard. That might be true, but a more empowering way to look at this might be, I haven't done this before, so I know I'm going to learn something new. Now, the reason that it's so important to identify these beliefs and sort of know what beliefs are guiding you is because there's this thing called the identity loop. And basically what happens is that our beliefs subconsciously drive our thoughts. Our thoughts actually impact our feelings, and our feelings govern how we act in a situation. And how we act in a situation then builds perception of people around us. And when we start to get this feedback loop from the people around us, they start to build our beliefs. Let me walk you through an example of how this works. For instance, let's say that you are saying to yourself this belief of, I don't belong in this room. Then you start to think, if I speak up in this meeting, they'll realize I'm not qualified. You'll start to allow those thoughts to happen in your head. And then when you're saying those thoughts to yourself, you're going to feel things like self-doubt and anxiety. And when you're feeling self-doubt and anxiety, they govern your actions. You're probably going to stay silent in the meeting. And then others will speak up, resulting in you being overlooked. And when you're overlooked and others are speaking up, you're then going to cement this belief in your head that others are more suited to be here and I don't belong in this room. And so the cycle goes. However, let's say you recognize this belief and you wanted to start to change it for yourself. It might then look like, I deserve to be here because I'm different. It's not that I don't belong in this room. It's actually I'm different, so I deserve to be here even more. If you believe that, you'll then start to think things like, I may provide a view that they haven't thought of. If you're thinking those thoughts, you're going to feel curious, you're going to feel confident, you're going to feel adventurous. And when you're feeling those things, when you're feeling confident, you're probably more likely to contribute some ideas in a meeting. You're probably more likely to ask questions. And when you do that, others are going to receive you much more positively. And it's going to then start to cement this belief of me being here benefits the room. And you can see by having that more positive and empowering belief, how it triggers this much more positive cycle for yourself. So what do you need to do? You need to build awareness of your beliefs. And once you recognize a belief for what it is, a story, you realize that you have the power to rewrite it. The beliefs that we have been built over years and years, and sometimes they come from our childhood. But once you recognize that a belief is simply a story in your mind, it may be fact, it may be fiction, it's likely fiction. Once you realize that, you then realize you have the power to rewrite it. So I'm going to give you some prompts to work through, and these will help you identify the beliefs that might be holding you back. So some things to journal on. What do I believe is required to be successful at work? If you thought about that and you thought about what are the traits that are required to be successful at work, are they things that you feel like you don't have? For instance, if you think I need to be loud to be in leadership and you don't like being loud, is that sort of creating a bit of a barrier for you? When I think of success, who is the person that I have in mind? What traits do they have? Like our beliefs are formed from society. They're formed from the movies that we watch, the TV shows that we watch, our parents, our school. They are formed so subconsciously. If you truly ask yourself, what is your definition of success? Who comes to mind? And is that a person that you want to be? What you're looking for when you're answering these questions is whether you have painted sort of a negative perception of what success or what leaders look like in your mind. And that can happen because of how they're often portrayed in movies and TV shows. So just take note of what you believe the traits are to be a successful person. They may not be true, but you just need to take note of what you believe success means. Another, what recurring thoughts do I have about work or career success that feel automatic or not chosen? So they could be things like, in order to be a successful leader, I have to give up my family time. Or in order to progress, I'm going to have less work-life balance. That may or may not be true, but you just need to take note of what these beliefs are and how they might be governing your thoughts and actions. What belief about work did I pick up from influences in my childhood, from parents or teachers or community that still show up in how I approach my job now? Think about how you think about work through your parents, or think about how you've been brought up to think about work based on like the school that you went to. You may have these preconceived beliefs about what work is supposed to be. And again, that might be holding you back. What must I believe to be true about work or a career in order to keep playing safe or avoid bigger opportunities? So a classic one for this is a lot of women tend to believe that in order for them to apply for a role, they have to tick off every single requirement in that role, i.e. I have to be perfect, otherwise I shouldn't be the person to get the job. Try and identify if there are any beliefs like that, like automatic thoughts, automatic beliefs that are maybe clouding your judgment. And then last one, what conversations do I have with myself when I imagine asking for a raise, promotion, or a new opportunity? And what underlying belief drives those conversations? Some of my mentees, for instance, like when I talk to them about having the pay conversation or talking about a promotion, they just like shrink away and they go, oh, but isn't that greedy? Or isn't it bad to talk about money? And you need to recognize what these beliefs might be that are potentially holding you back, because most of the time they're not true. So once you've done that, once you've spent the time to journal on these types of prompts, and you don't have to do all of them, maybe just do like 2 or 3, but once you've done that, you then need to disprove those beliefs. So identify what the beliefs are that might be underpinning some of your thoughts and some of your actions. And then you've got to just like knock them out. So ask yourself, is this actually a true story for everyone? Like, is this really true? Can I find any examples out there that disprove this? What examples do I have where this story doesn't hold, whether they are for yourself or for other people around you? And if a friend said this belief to me, what would I say back to them? This is a really powerful one. We are our own worst critics, and we are so, so cruel to ourselves. And we often say quite cruel beliefs to ourselves about ourselves, but we would never say those things to someone else. Like we would never say to someone, yeah, you actually need to be like absolutely perfect, otherwise you shouldn't apply for that job. No, we would say, mate, just go for it. They'd be lucky to have you. So recognize the beliefs that you are telling to yourself and then ask yourself, would you say those to your best mate? So to sum up the 3 tips from today, first, if you're ever feeling that imposter syndrome or that imposter voice, or you're feeling that self doubt, I recommend that you try to reframe it and remember that it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a signal that you're growing. Then I want you to voice it. I want you to find some safe people and I want you to share it. And I want you to have a mature adult conversation about the fact that, hey, I'm doing something new, so I'm feeling a little bit of self doubt. I need a little bit of like space and grace, or I might need you to lean in a little bit and just help me out. And once you've done that, I need you to identify your stories and realize that you have the power to rewrite them. Rather than this belief of, I don't belong here, it's a belief of, I'm going through a challenge at the moment, or I'm learning through this challenge. Now, that's it for my 6-part mini series on the core skills that I believe you need to build in order to thrive at work. If you would like more, or if you would like to join my Career Accelerator program, please find me on LinkedIn and DM me Sage. That's the name of my Career Accelerator for Women in Corporate.